Hey, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to dive into my router sled setup for flattening a slab. Okay, here's a quick overview of my setup, my table. I made a torsion box table out of 1/2 inch MDF. Stack your boards in here vertically. I think I did mine every 12 inches. This way and perpendicular. The table is 5 foot wide by 8 foot long. I needed it that big for the slab that I was working on. As you see here, just got the top piece, bottom piece, and then wrap it around everywhere. And then I put this hardboard, a little 1/4 inch sheet, just on top as a sacrificial surface. I didn't want to buy another sheet, so I left a gap there. This is my rail setup. I just added another piece of MDF where my rail is going to go, just to give me a little more clearance, so that way it would pick my sled up 3/4 inch higher and give me capability of getting my rail over top of a thicker slab. I think right here I have about 2.5 inch clearance from the table to the bottom of my rails. This is the router that I've used. It's 10,000 to 25,000 RPM. 10 amp skill saw router with a plunge capability. It will take a 1/2 inch collect, or you can reduce it down to 1/4 inch. The bit that I used, it's a 2-inch bit. Got it off Amazon as well. Try to find a link for it. I went ahead and bought some more carbide cutting blades for it, because I learned that when you're going through that epoxy, you'll eat them blades up. I do recommend wearing a respirator and some kind of hearing protection and something blowing the dust out of the room for me, because it got real dusty when I hit that epoxy. A lot of white dust, as you can still see residual in a lot of places. This rail, here's my rail system. The rail here is close to 7 foot long. Again, my table's 8 foot. I've got a little bit inset. I don't think I could find any rails any longer at the time, so that's what I had to work with. But that doesn't matter, because in theory, if my table is flat, I should be able to move my slab back and forth and still have the same thickness. It shouldn't mess up the cut by having to move the slab this way and back to me. This rail right here is about 6 foot long. I needed it that wide so that way I could clearly cut a 4-foot slab. I needed the rails to overhang so that way I'd be able to get closer to the rail here with my router and be able to utilize more of my table surface here. Here is my actual sled. I just set the router on there. I don't just set it, I actually bolt the router on there. Put holes in there. I take this plastic guard off, found some more screws with the same thread pitch. Set it on there and figure out what depth I need to be with that spoil bit. Lock it in, go with it. I'm using SBR 20 rails here, which I believe is this 20 millimeter diameter here. Should be about 3/4 of an inch. And I've used that on both rails, the long ones and the shorter ones for the router. I imagine you could maybe be concerned how this holds and supports. I'm spanning 58 inches right here, and I don't get much flexion out of these rails. I definitely don't get any, I don't feel like, just with the weight of the router. However, I am cautious to make sure I'm not pushing down my router, pushing down these rails. Because if I do that, surely I can get them to flex a little bit. Okay, I have the rail in the center of the span here. So if I would get the most flexion right here on this rail if I'm going to. First, we'll just start with, see if it flexes based on that ruler. Just sliding back and forth. Didn't see any sag. However, I can, if I'm out here in the middle, I can get it to flex, but I'm talking like 30 seconds of an inch, maybe, it seems like. Nothing major. Maybe that's not precise enough for what you're doing, but it's good enough for who it's for right here. On the end here, I just added an extra support. That way I try to keep it square, because I noticed without it here, I could wobble it or get it out of square pretty easily. Say if the router was on this end down here, do that. But so I just screwed that to it to have it squared up, keep it true while I'm going left and right, back and forth. Right, and this is how I'll run it. I'll find a spot, start here, push up, try to come back down, slide over a little bit, go again. My bit being 2 inches wide, I was only taking about half, maybe 2/3 of this bit. I wasn't ever really taking a whole 2 inches. That's pretty much my setup. Hope it helps some of you. Best advice I have is just go for it. Just do it, make it work, have fun with it.